My name is Mike Webb from AXA Corporate Investment Services. In the first of a series of short videos, we can be looking at the use of blended funds in developing an investment strategy for occupational pension schemes. Today I'm joined by Nick Trinder, Client Relationship Manager. So Nick, why should trustees use a blended fund?
So trustees and their advisors will look to use a blended fund to meet a specific investment objective. So for example, the trustees may wish to offer a global equity fund, but rather than select a single fund manager to manage that, they may wish to choose, for instance, a passive fund from one particular fund manager, perhaps an active global equity fund from another fund manager, and maybe even an emerging market equities content from another fund manager. So the option of a blended fund allows the trustees and their advisors to select different funds and wrap them within the one single blended fund. It may be also used to perhaps complement different styles of funds. So for example, we've seen this with diversified growth funds being brought together into the one single blended fund to basically complement styles. Equally, it allows trustees and advisors to gain additional diversity that they wouldn't necessarily get within the one single fund.
So Nick, what happens if trustees want to make changes?
Well, that's the additional benefit of a blended fund, is the flexibility that goes with future changes. So much will depend on the type of change to the blended fund that we're looking at.
Okay.
It could be a complete change of underlying fund. In that case, we'd replace one fund and bring in another fund. It could be the trustees and their advisors wish to change the target allocation of one of the underlying funds. So for example, if we have an emerging market equities component within the fund, perhaps increasing that allocation from say 10% to 15 or even 20%. In all instances, with a blended fund, a single unit price will be generated. And in generating that single unit price, performance history can be maintained. So performance reporting is consistent for trustees. Yeah. But equally, the benchmark will be updated to reflect the new underlying holdings, and in this instance, the additional allocation to emerging market equities.
Oh, that sounds great. So are there any restrictions?
Well, there's plenty of flexibility with the blended funds, Mike. Essentially, there's no limit in terms of the number of funds that can be included in a blend. We also have to appreciate that some of the underlying funds may have different dealing cycles, for instance. Again, they can all be included and wrapped within the one same blended fund. Equally, we can blend to many levels. So some trustees, and we see some examples of this, blend blended funds with other blended funds as their underlying components. And finally, I think a very important point is around the naming convention as well.
Right.
And again, the trustees and their advisors have the flexibility to use a naming convention that is appropriate to their scheme and their membership.
That's excellent, Nick. Thanks very much indeed. So for further information, please do speak to Nick or one of other relationship managers, or alternatively, if you go to our website or axawealth.co.uk.